Hey everybody, Kennis here. Hope you're doing great. I'm having a great day today. Listen, I wanted to make a video of how to save money when you're buying used gear at pawn shops. For those of you that know me, I buy almost everything used, unless it's just like a product that is brand new on the market that I have to have. I almost always buy it used. So in that, over the years of doing that, I've kind of developed a few tricks to help get get products as cheap as possible. So pawn shops are a great option to buy products, specifically for musicians, a lot cheaper than you're gonna see in other ways. And sometimes though, if you just walk in and you just pay the ticket price that's there, you're gonna get ripped off. So I'm gonna show you how to not get ripped off, how to pay as little as possible. So there's three things you gotta look at. The first is you have to understand how pawn shops come up with the price that they pay and how they come up with the price they're selling it for. Recently, I just purchased a Vox AC15 C1 for $300 from a pawn shop, including the tax, out the door, $300. So how did I do that? Well, let's kind of reverse engineer this example. So I bought this for $300. Now this is probably what happened is somebody came in, they went to the pawn shop, they said, hey, I've got this guitar amplifier I'm wanting to sell, and then this is what's going to happen. That guy that works at the pawn shop is going to take that, and he's got to figure out, number one, how much he's going to sell this for. Second thing he needs to figure out is how much he's going to pay for it. Pawn shops are in the business of making money. I understand that. So how does that work? What are the numbers that they're looking at? So if you can figure out how much a pawn shop paid for something, it's a lot easier to cut a deal when you're buying it from them. So finding out what they paid for it is the most important thing. So how do they do that? Well, I'm going to show you here. So this example of a Vox AC15 C1, this is what they're going to do. How do I know this? Because I've seen them do it, and I know what sites they're going to, and this is what's going to happen. So this applies to not just musical equipment, but I'm going to use musical equipment as an example. So here I have looked up the Vox AC15 at Guitar Center, and it sells right here brand new for $650. $649 plus tax if you're buying it. I'm not sure if it does it online, if you have to pay tax or not. Anyway, so $650 is the new price. Right off the bat, you can take what they are going to sell it for at least half of that. They're probably willing to sell it in the shop for half of what the new price is. Okay, so that's what the pawn shop person is going to think is, what's half of the new price? That's the first number they're thinking of, half of the new price. So in this example, that's $325 of what that they know that they can probably get for a product. Most products sell for about 50% of the new cost on the used market. Sometimes they're up to about 60%, whether you're buying on Craigslist or wherever the case is. Usually it's about 60% of new, unless the product came out like yesterday. Usually it's about 60%. So in this case, it's 60% or 50% of, I'm gonna pull up my little calculator. I'm gonna just round up to 650 times 2 or divided by 2 is $325. So that's what they're thinking. Their first number is, okay, we could probably sell this for $325. The next thing that they're going to do is they're going to go to eBay and see what something is selling for. So on eBay, when you're looking at this, you're going to want to type in, up here, whatever model, whatever you're looking at, and then you want to make sure you select on the side here two things. You want to go down to completed listings and make sure that's selected, because it doesn't matter what someone's trying to sell some for, it's what someone actually did sell for. And then you want to click used, okay? Then you go up here and put this filter here up at the top. You sort by the lowest price, okay? So if we look here, we see a couple things. That's not an AC15 CR, so that doesn't, or C1 doesn't count. Here we go, here's our first AC15 C1 at $420, and it actually sold for less than that because it's got the line through it. So we don't know what it sold for. eBay doesn't tell you, but it's going to be less than 420. Okay, let's see. Here's another AC15 C1 right here, 450, and they accepted an offer less than that plus shipping. So let's find one that. Okay, here's one $400 plus 88 shipping, so we're at $488 right here. Here's another one, some price plus 88 shipping. So that kind of gives you a baseline. Here's one that didn't sell for 400 plus 72. They're going to look at this right here and they're going to say, okay, this didn't sell for $470. And so that's kind of what they're looking at. My guess is they would look at this and just kind of figure out, they're going to be looking at kind of in the $400 range. If they saw that one for $420 that didn't, or that was marked less than $420 that sold for that, they're going to say, all right, $420, that's what we're looking at. So their two numbers that they're looking at are $370 or $325, which is half of the new cost, and then also what's going to be selling on eBay at around the $400 range. And then sometimes they'll go to Reverb and they'll see what cost is there. And you see here that right again, we've got $395 plus $75 shipping. This is what people are asking for it. And there's the make offer, so it's going to be less than that. So that's probably what they're looking at. Their two numbers are $325 and $400. Now, those are the numbers that they're looking at and saying, what can I sell it for? Now, they're going to take that number and go with the lowest number. So they're going to assume $325. That's what I can kind of sell this for. Okay. Now, here's the important thing. It doesn't really necessarily matter. They're not trying to squeak out every single cent that they can possibly get for an item, because every day that it sits on their shelf, they're basically losing money. They're paying rent for that shelf space. They want to turn this around. They want to turn it around. So that's where negotiation comes in. Now, the first negotiation is the negotiation of the sell when the pawn shop is buying from somebody else. So for example, they've landed on that $325 number. Well, what they're not going to say, okay, hey, person selling me the AC-15, I'm gonna offer you $300 and I'm gonna sell for $325 and I'm gonna make 25 bucks on it. That's not what's gonna happen. They need to double their money for the most part. That's their goal, is to double the amount of money that they paid for an item. Okay, so what they're gonna do is they're gonna say $325 is what we sell this for. We need to buy this from this person for half of that. Half of $325, we're going to divide that by 2, equals $162.50. So they need to come up with a little bit of negotiation room. So what they're probably going to do is say, hey, we'll probably sell this, we'll sell it to you, we'll buy it from you for $125. And they'll throw out like a real low number, knowing that there's some negotiation. It's kind of one of those, like, you throw out your number, I throw out my number, we meet somewhere in the middle. That $625 number, the new cost, divided by 2, you can basically depend on a pawn shop paying about 25% of the new cost. Okay. Now, sometimes this is a little different. Say this was an item that cost $650 new, but for some reason on the used market it's selling for $500. They may offer $200. They may go up a little bit. So when you're selling an item, say you're selling this Vox AC-15, you're going to go in there and you say, hey, I wanted to see what I could get for this. They're going to ask you, they're going to say, what were you thinking? What number are you thinking? Now, here's where you can go with this. You can do what most people do, and they're going to offer a number like $350. They're going to say, well, we sell on eBay for $400, $450. I was thinking, maybe $350, $375. They're not going to take that. Just know that they're not going to take that. So what you want to do is you want to make sure you're offering a number below what that half value is, below that, in this case, the $325 number. And then what that does is that gives them some negotiation. So they're going to offer a quarter or 20% of the new cost. You just offer them maybe, say, 45% of the new cost, knowing that you're going to have to come down and you're going to meet there somewhere in the middle. So my guess is, if this person came in here, that the negotiation went something like this, like, what are you thinking? And then the person selling it said, well, I'm just thinking somewhere in that range, 300, 350. They said, there's no way I can do that. I got to make some money here. I'm thinking in the $150 range. And at that point, if you're selling it, you're able to say, you know what, I can't do that. I'm out of here. Or you can say, like, well, cool, let's meet somewhere in the middle. And so probably they met somewhere in the middle around the $200 range. That would be my guess, is that in the $200 range. Now, sometimes they'll just throw out that, well, I could give you $125 for this amp, and people go, okay, sure. And so they'll just take it and not negotiate at all. They won't say, well, I can't do that, but could you do fill in the blank more? What I think ended up happening on this is that last scenario where it was probably, they say threw out a number like $150 and the person didn't negotiate at all. They just said, yeah, sure, that works for me. Now, how do I know that? Because on the ticket, when it was listed on this, it had $379 is what the ticket price was that they were asking for this Vox AC15C1. Now, this is where the important thing that you need to realize. In this situation, it was, I'm going to pull up my calculator again, clear this out. They were asking $379. I'm going to just go ahead and round that up to $380. And then I said, I'm immediately saying I'm only paying 75% of that. So I'm going to times 0.75. And that puts me at $285. Now, $285, that's not including tax. So I include tax into that. In my area, I'm timesing 1.0825, and that brings me to a number of $308.51, okay? So that is, I know that I can get that. 25% is just a pretty good number to start with. Sometimes you can just offer them 40% off of what they're asking, and sometimes they'll take it. Long story short, what I did is I looked at this number of 308 and I said, all right, $308, I know I can get out for that. I'm gonna go a little bit less than that, and I'm gonna tell them I wanna pay $300 out the door, okay? And that's the verbiage that I use is $300 out the door. So how does this negotiation look like in real life? I wish I could actually film this because it would make a pretty good video, but I doubt that a pawn shop would want me to film this video. So what I basically do is I'll say, hey, I'm interested in this amp and I wanted to see what the cost would be, okay? So I'm not even addressing the ticket price. I pretend that doesn't even exist, okay? And then what they will say is, well, what are you wanting to pay? What are you thinking? And that's where throwing out this number is very important. So, you know, here's the thing, you're not gonna pull one over on them. But what they can basically do is they're going to basically go, you know what, yeah, I probably could keep this on the shelf and maybe get $25 more for this or get 10% more for this if I really held on to it. But I'm not in the business of holding on to stuff. I got a buyer right here that's willing to pay. Let's do this. So I will say, hey, I was thinking I can pay, and just don't say, would you possibly maybe perhaps be gracious enough to take this amount? Don't act like they're doing you a favor. You're the one offering the money. Say, hey, I can pay, this is what I did. I said, looking at this amp, and I can do $300 out the door for this. And that's the way that I put it, $300 out the door. And then what they'll do is they'll say, okay, give me a second, and they'll go back and they're gonna look in their computer and see what they paid for that product. In which case they probably said, all right, we paid $175 or we paid $200. We're gonna make $200 or $100 on this deal. Let's go ahead and do this. There you go. That's where it sells. Now, sometimes you're like right on the edge, and if you have cash, that can push you over onto your side. So they might say like, well, we could do $315, and then that's the time you say, well, I'll tell you what, I can do $300 cash. Does that make a difference? And it does make a difference to them because if you're paying with a credit card, then they have to pay those credit card fees, which is usually like 1 to 3%, something like that. So at a $300 product, you know, they're going to end up paying, you know, I don't know, $5 to $8 for just having to process that fee. They'll take that $5 or $8 off of the end product. Anyway, they came back and said, yeah, $300 sounds good for me. Now, at the same time, there was a Bugera amp. Let me show it to you. This is the Bugera V5. It's right here. And this sells for $200. You know, I think I'm on Sweetwater here. This sells for $200. So right off the bat, I know I'm at the $100, okay? On Reverb, you know, somebody's, you know, offering $100 local pickup. That's probably just about right. So I knew that I could pretty much get that for $100. And so that's what I did. I said, I'm looking at these two amps. And I was going to buy one or the other. I didn't know if I'd be able to get the deal on both of them. So I said, I could do 100 for this one, or I could do 300 for this one. 100 for the Bugera or 300 for the Vox. Now the Bugera cost, let me pull up my calculator, was $129. I'm gonna go and round that up to 130. And I'm going to times that by 0.75, and that puts me at $97, okay? So that's my 25% off, and then I'm going to times that by my tax, 0.10825, and so it was $105, and I said, hey, let me do $100 out the door. Well, they came back and bought, and they said you could do both of these, 100 for this and 300 for that. I wasn't necessarily expecting that, so I wasn't necessarily planning on buying both amps, but they were pretty good price. I'd already done the negotiation, so I ended up buying both of these amps right there, $400. Actually ended up being $400.01 as that's what the charge was, and got out the door with those two. Now, had I been smart, I could have done another tactic, which is to package things together. So I do that math and I go, okay, here's my 25%. This is what they're willing to pay for it. All that kind of stuff, all that we just talked about over the last 15 minutes, and I say, okay, $400 is this, but I'm going to package these together, these two items, and I'm going to say, would you take $375 for both of these out the door? And they're going to do the same thing. They're going to go back and look at their computer, and they're going to go, yeah, you know what? It's worth $25 for me to get this off the shelf and to get that money in my pocket so I can buy more stuff than it is to just squeeze this out for that extra $25. I didn't do that, but I bet that I probably could have done this for $375 out the door for both of these products. So those are just some tips when you're buying stuff from a pawn shop, is knowing what they are willing to pay for it is the key. Because if you know what they were willing to pay for it, basically kind of you can double that. That's what they're kind of hoping to get for it. But usually they'll be willing to sell it for about 50% more, maybe 60% more than what they paid for it. Anyway, hopefully this was helpful to you, giving you a couple real world examples of how to purchase items at a pawn shop. Hopefully it's helpful to you. If it was, please hit a thumbs up. And if this is the first time you've ever watched one of my videos, I make videos to help make musicians better. Sometimes it's videos like this that just kind of show a behind the scenes aspect of being a musician. Sometimes it's doing a gear review. Sometimes it's a music lesson. But anyway, consider subscribing to my YouTube channel if you've never watched one of my videos. And hopefully you do, and I'll see you in another video.